Welcome back, Strength Labbers. Okay, today's topic. You're over 40, how should you exercise? I'm going to give you a paradigm, and it's going to have 4 components in it. And with this structure, you'll be able to build your own program. And the reason why this is so important is, let me give you an example. If you're 50 years old and you go down to the local gym that happens to be offering a CrossFit program, and then you quit after a few weeks with an injury or a lack of motivation, you're going to blame it on yourself. But really, it was the program. The program didn't work for you. You were the wrong fit for that program. So when you try to fit yourself into a pre-established program, a lot of times that's where the failure begins. So what I want to do is I want to build the program. I want you to build the program around you. So here's how we're going to do that. The 4 components. One is the mode of exercise, the type of exercise. And there's 2 pieces to this. One is resistance training, one is physical activity. The resistance training is not debatable. If you're over 40, you must be weight training. Sarcopenia is the natural loss of muscle mass after the age of 40. And you're not going to be able to avoid it, and yes, it's happening to you. So you need to be doing resistance training. That is the concrete platform or foundation to your physical activity. So the physical activity can be any activity you want it to be. It could be walking and jogging. It could be hiking and biking. It could be mixed martial arts and jiu-jitsu. It could be golfing and basketball. It's really up to you. Whatever your proclivities are, that's what you can do. You can choose 1 or 6 of them. It really is up to you. But that foundation is resistance training. And certainly of those physical activities, there are some activities that are more injurious than others. Pick them wisely. The older you get, the more wise that decision becomes. You hear me? Basketball is more injurious than simply going for a jog. Pick wisely. All right. The next 3 components are variables that affect one another. There's almost an inverse relationship amongst them. So I'm going to bring them all online at the same time. One would be frequency. How often are you going to exercise, right? 7 days a week, 2 to 3 times a week, 1 time a week. The other would be intensity, high intensity, low intensity. How about duration? High duration, low duration. Each one of those can be moderate as well. Moderate intensity, moderate duration. So those are your 3 factors. And those 3 are variables that you use to control the modes. All right, so back to the modes. If I'm going to give you an example of what I might provide to a client who's given me some feedback to some of the questions that I've asked them, I might say, hey, look, I'm recommending that you do 2 to 3 times per week resistance training, and that you hit the entire body 1 time in that 2 to 3 times each week. And then we recycle that again, and then we work through all those body parts 2 to 3 times a week next week. On top of that, I'd like for you to go and do a physical activity program of 3 days of walking and 2 days of jogging. So with the 3 days of walking, I'm controlling for a lower intensity, but you can see I'm giving them 3 days, so I'm controlling the frequency. And then on the jogging days, I'm giving them a little bit more intensity, but I've controlled their frequency and brought it down to 2 days. So typically what happens with these 3 components over here is if I go 7 days a week, which is a lot of frequency, right? Well, then duration and intensity are going to come down naturally, because you're not going to be able to have high intensity and high duration and do it 7 times a week. It's not going to work that way, especially after 40. If I go really high intensity, well, then I'm going to go lower duration, because the harder you work at something, the less amount of time you're going to be able to do it. So they all play off one another, and they're all important components. And the last thing I want to see you do with a program is establish a walking program that has you walking 5 days a week for 30 minutes every single time. You need to play with these components. You now understand them, and you need to mix and match them and change them up from week to week, month to month. If you have any questions on what we just talked about here, leave it below. I will answer your question. As always, it is your responsibility to take care of yourself, not just for you, but for all of those people who depend on you. I'll see you at the next video.